European rails are made up of a mix of regional, express, international and high-speed trains. Regional trains are more local trains that operate within a single country between its towns and cities. These services can be pretty slow if they have multiple stops. For faster regional services, look for an express train which has fewer stops between its origin and destination. In France, a popular regional train service is TER. This affordable train operates in all regions of France and is mainly used by French commuters. But it's also a great option for tourists looking for a cheap and reliable way of getting around. Another great example is Deutsche Bahn, which is Germany's largest railway operator. Deutsche Bahn offers many services, including regional and intercity trains across the entire country. Next are high-speed trains, which travel much faster than traditional rail services and can either operate within a country or across borders. There isn't an internationally approved definition of how fast high speed is, but generally for new trains, high speed counts as a top speed of at least 250 km per hour, or 160 miles per hour. And for older lines, a speed over 200 km an hour, 120 miles an hour, can qualify as high-speed rail. High-speed rail services are growing in Europe because they're a great alternative to flying. Thalys, the French-Belgian company for example, operates internationally across France, Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany. Finally, there are international trains, which are pretty self-explanatory. These trains cross borders into other countries. And to clarify, there are no specific international trains. All sorts of trains cross borders daily. For example, between Paris and Milan, you have the choice between Italian state-owned Trenitalia or the French-operated SNCF. Fun fact, this is actually a scenic route, which I'll dive into more later on in the guide. Now let's take a quick look at some of the specialty service options available in some countries through luxury, scenic and night trains. Luxury trains can be very expensive as they provide quite a different experience from most trains. And when I say expensive, I mean expensive. A one-way ticket can cost upwards of $10,000. Luxury trains are almost always owned by private companies, meaning that they don't accept regular public tickets. The most well-known example is the Orient Express, made famous by the book, then the movie, Murder on the Orient Express. This train is run by the Belmond Company, which serves London, Paris, Vienna and Istanbul. Moving on to my favourite type of train, scenic trains. Scenic trains are special because they offer some picture-perfect views right from your seat. Oftentimes you get these beautiful views at the expense of slower travel times, which is totally okay. It's why you're there, to take in the sights and enjoy the journey. An example of a popular scenic train is the Little Yellow Train in France, which offers stunning views of the Pyrenees Mountains. But my personal favourite is the Bernina Express train in Switzerland, which gives incredible alpine views with panoramic windows. The Bernina Express journey takes you from Chur in the south of Switzerland to Tirano in Italy, near Lake Como. Night trains also offer a unique travel experience. You can find them throughout Europe. And as I mentioned, they are having a bit of a renaissance right now, as demand is growing for the option to save a travel day by sleeping from the comfort of a sleeper berth. I'll share more about how to make the most out of scenic and night trains later in the course. As you can see, European trains are a massive patchwork of travel opportunities. The train network is so good that you could easily have breakfast in Paris, lunch in Brussels, and finish your day with dinner in Amsterdam. The countries with the most railway tracks are Germany, France, Poland, and Italy. And within the entirety of Europe, there is over 200,000 kilometers, that's 124,274 miles, of tracks you can explore, which is a lot compared to the length of railway tracks that you can find in some of the largest countries in the world. You'll be surprised at how many small cities and towns you can access by train. But remember that railway systems throughout Europe are not homogeneous, so as you travel through different countries, double and triple check your tickets and stations. Paris, for example, is home to several railway stations, each offering slightly different services to different parts of France and Europe. Gare Saint-Lazare offers travel to the northwest of France, whereas Gare de Lyon offers trains to the south of France, including Lyon, and other international routes in Central and Western Europe. Stay sharp so you don't turn up at the wrong station. Another good example is the journey from Madrid to Lisbon. You may think that their close proximity makes this an easy journey, but in reality it's not that simple. You have to take 3 trains, one from Madrid to Badajoz, which takes 4 hours 17 minutes, followed by a train from Badajoz to Entroncamento, taking 2 hours 50 minutes, and a third and final train to the destination, Lisbon. Be aware that countries have different ticket validation standards. Some networks require that your tickets are validated by a machine, like the regional railways in France. And other networks require both tickets and seat reservations, like high-speed express trains in Italy. These intricacies purely mean that you need to do a little research for each leg of your journey to know what you need to be prepared for. But luckily for you, you're here with me now, so you'll know exactly what to look for.
Keeping internet access while crossing European borders can be a real headache. So we wanted to share an offer for anyone that needs internet access overseas with the sponsor of this video, SIM Local. For those unaware, an eSIM allows you to keep using your existing SIM card, so phones, calls and messages still work like normal. But then, you can have a second electronic SIM that handles your international data at a much lower cost. With SIM Local, you can set up everything before you fly, so as soon as you land, you'll have internet access. This is really useful for checking public transport information or hiring a taxi to a hotel upon your arrival. No searching for public Wi-Fi or looking for overpriced SIM cards in the airport. SIM Local operates in hundreds of individual countries, as well as regional packages that allow country hopping around Europe. Their plans cover a wide range of allowances for different budgets, and with a top-rated Trustpilot score. Since you prepay, you can use your phone for map directions, restaurant reviews, translation apps, all with no danger of spending more than you planned. So use the link below, or QR code, before your next trip, and get a discount whenever you use discount code BRIGHTTRIP.
When it comes to booking, the first thing to consider is where do you fall between spontaneity and a strict itinerary. It's entirely possible to book a ticket 10 or 20 minutes before catching your train, and that allows you to go where you want and when you want. Or you could pre-book all your trains in advance, perhaps save yourself some money and avoid getting last-minute anxiety. It just depends on your time, budget and the type of journey that brings you the most joy, or the least stress. Many travellers who visit Europe consider getting a European Rail Pass. This is called the Eurail Pass for non-Europeans or the Interrail Pass for European citizens. These two are pretty much the same thing, but for the purpose of this guide, we're going to refer only to the Eurail for all of you non-EU visitors. So what exactly is the Eurail Pass? The Eurail Pass is a prepaid ticket for several train trips across Europe. The pass was first established in 1959, at which point only 13 countries were involved, but since then 20 more have joined. Today, these are all the countries you can travel around using the Eurail Pass. Since you can pay for the Eurail Pass in advance, the idea is that you can decide which train to travel on fairly spontaneously. Just be aware that if you plan to travel in the peak summer period, you will struggle if you don't book ahead. There are a few different options when it comes to purchasing a Eurail Pass. Do you need a global pass or a single country pass? As you can tell by the name, the Global Pass allows travel across all of the countries within the Eurail family, while the Single Country Pass allows only travel in a selected country. As of the making of this guide, the average cost of a Single Country Pass is $140, while Global Passes start at around $450, depending of course on the number of days you buy your pass for. Eurail Passes have child prices for children under 12, youth prices for people under 27, and adult pricing for everyone else. Children under 4 can travel for free. Next, you can select between a first class or second class pass. The first class option is naturally more expensive, but it does deliver with more comfort and amenities. In first class, the seats are wider with more leg and elbow room, and there are fewer passengers per car. Then you can tailor the pass to your trip by choosing the number of days that are right for you, from 3 days all the way up to 3 months. And within those passes, you can select between a flex pass and a consecutive or continuous pass. A flex pass gives you a selected number of days within a selected period of time. For example, if you purchase a 2-month global pass with 15 travel days, you then get to choose whichever days within that 2-month period you want to travel. A consecutive pass has a fixed number of consecutive days that you can book trains and travel. One thing I'll mention when booking a global pass is don't fill up all your train bookings ahead of time. Things always change when you're traveling, so give yourself a little bit of wiggle room when choosing travel dates. The nice thing about Eurail passes is that you are allowed to take multiple trains a day, so you don't have to limit yourself to taking only 1 train a day. Lastly, Eurail pass also gives you access to discounts throughout Europe. From ferry routes, boat tours, hotel rooms, museum tickets, Eurail is partnered with a plethora of companies with great discounts that you can take advantage of on your journeys. The Eurail pass does have, for me, 2 major downsides. Number 1 is you have to pay for seat reservations on certain trains, on top of the cost of your Eurail pass. This can be quite frustrating, especially when you've spent sometimes over $1,000 on your rail pass already. Seat reservations can range from $10 to $40, depending on which train you're on and the country you're in. Number 2 is that while Eurail gives you great access to European rails, it doesn't include every single train. Some high-speed trains and some private railways, for example, are not included with your rail pass. So it's a good idea to check the app to see which trains you can ride on using the pass. Which app, you're asking yourself? This app. So is a Eurail pass right for you? Well, it depends on your plans. If you'd like to go on a spontaneous trip around Europe, the Eurail pass can work well because you don't need to pre-book your tickets in advance and you can just board a qualifying train and write it down on your pass. Unless you wish to travel beyond your designated number of travel days, the Eurail pass will likely include all your tickets, and you might only need to buy an occasional seat reservation on top of that. Generally, the Eurail pass is only worth it if you plan to travel long distances on all of your travel days. Otherwise, buying tickets separately might be more economical, which you can do online or at the station. The only way you can truly figure out which is better value for money is to look into the cost of your trip if you bought tickets separately versus the price of the Eurail pass that best represents the number of travel days you need. So let's take a look at the trip that we've taken to film this guide. We actually started off in Paris, and using the Plan Your Trip function on the Eurail site, we can enter Paris and tell the site that we're there for 2 nights and that there are 3 of us on this trip. From here you can look at the map. We've actually then gone to Frankfurt, and there we spent 1 night. From there we've come down to where we are now in Zurich, Switzerland. And again, it's as simple as clicking on the next country, selecting the city and adding it to my itinerary. It's $723 for the pass that will cover all of those journeys for the 3 of us. What we did instead was we looked at some one-way tickets to make this trip, because we aren't traveling on all of our travel days and we're only using 1 or 2 trains per day. In this case, we bought all of our tickets separately in advance because it worked out cheaper. But maybe if we'd been planning to travel longer distances over a longer period of time and use more trains, the Eurail pass might have worked out as much better value, especially if I chose an itinerary that didn't require seat reservations. The key tip, of course, is always do your research in advance. It's as easy as that. And now we've learned about the Eurail pass, you can make an informed decision about whether it's right for your trip. For many European train routes, buying your point-to-point tickets at the station is the easiest and most practical option. This is especially true for regional, local and suburban trains where reservations aren't necessary, or in some cases are not possible. You arrive on the day of travel, buy your fixed price ticket at the office, and you're on the way. But there will be cases where purchasing tickets in advance is the better option. High-speed intercity trains are a great example. Much like airlines, these trains in most of Europe have varying ticket prices, as do some international trains. So you will generally have a better chance of getting a low price when booking in advance, bearing in mind that operators can predict popularity. This means that the longer you wait, the more you're likely to pay. Also, if you want a refundable ticket with flexible dates, you will most likely have to pay more. In much of Central and Eastern Europe, Germany, Austria and Denmark, intercity trains offer full-price flexible tickets that are always available. These tickets have a fixed price and will get you onto any train on a given day as long as reservations are available. The downside, however, is that long trips can end up being very expensive. Several countries offer advance purchase discounts. These are non-refundable and pretty much set your travel plans in stone. So again, it depends on how much flexibility you need. Seat reservations for advance purchase tickets aren't required, but can be secured for an additional fee. Unfortunately, there is no one-stop shop online where you can buy tickets for any train in any country. So let's go over some of the main websites you'll want to keep in mind. The two primary ways to buy train tickets are either through third-party retailers or directly from national rail service websites. Third-party websites like Omeo, Trainline Europe and Rail Europe tend to be more user-friendly and are generally the best way to get your tickets. They do charge a small service fee, but it's worth it most of the time. Just be sure to check if there are any hefty credit card fees. Many of these websites, including Trainline, sell e-tickets that you can download directly to your phone through their app. You can also have them emailed to you, and the train conductor will simply scan them on your phone. If e-tickets aren't your preferred option, you can redeem your tickets at the station. If you're going to use a third-party website, Trainline is a great option. It covers almost every country's rail service and has a useful price prediction tool. The site allows you to compare itineraries and will recommend you a journey based on the best price and duration. Trainline's free app also makes it easy to book on the go. If you're looking for an easy, streamlined way to get your tickets online, you can't go wrong here. The only downside is that Trainline doesn't offer live timetables. Speaking of which, one of the best sites to get detailed timetables is Germany's Deutsche Bahn. Deutsche Bahn covers all major train lines in Eurail countries, as well as many bus and ferry services, and has one of the most extensive timetable databases in Europe. Just like Trainline, Deutsche Bahn also has a free and easy-to-use app. The downside to the Deutsche Bahn site is that it only lets you book Deutsche Bahn trains and a few international journeys which start in Germany. So third-party websites are great. They're quick, easy, and offer the most user-friendly booking experience. But they may not always offer the cheapest option, especially for shorter trips. Each European country has its own rail service, and most of these have websites where you can book directly from the company for the going European price. These sites allow you to take advantage of all the current discounts and promotions, which means you'll be paying the same price as Europeans. Note that some sites like Trainline do have the same prices as these national rail operators, excluding the service fee. Many of these sites aren't very user-friendly or aren't optimized for those booking from outside of Europe. Sometimes they are plagued with bugs, translation mistakes, and credit card issues. But if you're willing to work around that, this is where you'll find the cheapest possible way to travel within one country. As long as you know what your priorities are when it comes to booking, you'll be able to find the best option for your trip. If you've decided there's no need to buy your ticket in advance, the alternative option is to buy at the station. Despite possible long lines and language barriers, many travellers favour this method, often because they favour spontaneity. As you now know, advance booking will often commit you to a certain train and itinerary. And depending on your ticket, cancelling or changing your trip can be a costly decision. Buying at the station lets you decide on the day where you want to go and when. And these tickets are often easier to exchange or refund than those bought online. Though most European ticket staff speak some level of English, it's a good idea to have all your train information written down beforehand. You'll also want to check what your train's rules are around reservations. Remember that some trains can sell out, especially high-speed ones, and especially in the summer. You don't want to end up standing for the entire journey or not getting onto your train at all. Many people are put off by the idea of standing in long lines and make that their main reason for booking online. If this is your primary concern for you, you can avoid lines by going during off-peak hours. Alternatively, you can get your tickets through one of the self-service ticket machines. They let you both book tickets and make reservations and are a great way to skip those dreaded ticket office lines. Normally, they take both cash and credit cards, but sometimes they won't accept credit cards unless they're chip and PIN, so it is good to have cash on you as a backup. Once you have your ticket, there's one more step to complete before you catch your train. You may need to get your ticket validated. This has to be done before you board, otherwise you risk being fined or even asked to leave the train. Ticket validation systems exist in a small number of countries, and the process is relatively simple. You just have to remember to do it. Most of the time you should find a small ticket machine like this at your boarding platform. Just slip in your ticket and it's validated. This works a little bit differently for e-tickets and rail passes. If your e-ticket reservation says print at train station, you have to print and then validate it as normal. If it has ticketless confirmation, you don't have to print or validate it before you get on the train. Rail passes get an automatic stamp at booking time. Then, on the first day of travel, rail pass holders need to go to the ticket office and get someone from the booking office to validate it before you board. A rail conductor cannot validate it. Only an official can. Don't let anyone else tamper with your pass. Lastly, remember that your ticket is valid for a certain number of days. To prevent misuse, you need to validate it each day.